So over the weekend, UFC Fight Night Caceres vs Albazi took place, and obviously the fighters that fought on the card now need to be matched up with future opponents, and all of the winners on the card, from the top to the bottom of the card, I have matched up with their future opponents, with how I will match them up. Starting with Amir Albazi, I thought Kai Kara-France won rounds 1, 4, and 5, and the fact that one of the judges gave Amir Albazi round number 4 is quite scary because the first 3 rounds were quite close, but the fact that the judge gave Albazi round 4 is very, very concerning. He wants a title shot. I wouldn't give him a title shot because Brandon Royval is literally weighing in as the backup for Moreno versus Pantoja. So Brandon Royval will get the title shot because he weighed in as the alternate. So yeah, I think Albazi is going to have to fight in a title eliminator. He seems to want to fight in Dubai. Not everyone from that part of the world just automatically gets a title shot in Dubai. So I've got him in a title eliminator against the loser of Brandon Moreno versus Alejandro Pantoja. And believe it or not, I am actually going to be picking Pantoja to win that fight. But it's close, so you can just replace Brandon Moreno with Pantoja if you think that Pantoja loses that fight. But if this fight happens, I think Moreno probably finishes him on the feet, maybe within 3 rounds, and I think Pantoja probably subs him within 1 round. So, yeah, Albazi, congratulations, you got past Kai Kara-France, but you're about to get exposed in your next fight, mate. We move on. Alex Caceres beat Daniel Pineda. He just beat an older guy. Alex Caceres, he's not really that old, he's like 34 years old, but he's been in the UFC for a very long time. He's got a lot of experience. He was on the Ultimate Fighter like a long time ago, and I've got him matched up against another older guy. I think this fight is really fun. Alex Caceres versus Edson Barboza makes a lot of sense to me. You know, if you do look at the rankings and you do go to the featherweight division, you can't see it at all because of my overlay, but Edson Barboza's ranked number 14, Alex Caceres is ranked number 15. It's pretty perfect, really. I think Alex Caceres versus Edson Barboza, Fight Night co-main event in front of a crowd, pay-per-view, main card opener, pay-per-view prelim, main events, you know, like pretty fun fight, pretty high level fight. I mean, two guys, I don't know if Alex Caceres is really a fan favorite, but I am a fan of Alex Caceres, and I think that he probably should fight another older guy, another guy with a lot of experience in Barboza. Speaking of older guys, and speaking of guys with a lot of experience, Jim Miller just knocked out Jesse Butler. I mean, Jesse Butler kind of rushed and left himself pretty wide open in that fight. Jim Miller capitalized, knocked him out. It's pretty good KO, to be honest. He didn't call anyone out, but he said he wants to fight the older guys. Now, you could do Jim Miller versus Clay Guida. That's fun, but he did say that he's willing to go up to 170 to fight another older guy. So what better older guy to fight than Matt Brown? Matt Brown, 42 years old. He might be immortal. He's an absolute savage. He recently just knocked out Court McGee. You could do Court McGee versus Jim Miller, but Jim Miller, he did say in that post-fight interview he wants to fight the older guys. I think that makes sense. He's been around for so long. Most UFC fights, Jim Miller's like 40 years old as well. Let's have him fight older guys. Now, Tim Elliott beat Victor Altamirano. Someone called him out on Twitter, and of course it was Muhammad Mokaev. Muhammad Mokaev called him out, and Tim Elliott apparently has responded, accepting the call out, and Tim Elliott said that he wants to fight often. Muhammad Mokaev, I know he's injured. He's got like a sore shoulder and the knee from his last fight, so I don't know if he's really ready to make an ASAP return, but Muhammad Mokaev seems to want to fight soon, and Tim Elliott wants to fight soon as well. So you could do this maybe in like August or something like that, maybe even earlier if these guys really wanted to fight ASAP, or you could do it in October in Abu Dhabi. Just whatever works for the two of these guys. Apparently they've called each other out, and apparently they're both accepted, so I think that just makes sense. Aside from that, maybe I was thinking about Tim Elliott versus like Sue Madajeri, another guy with a lot of experience but is still ranked. But now we move on. Karine Silva beat up Ketlin Souza. I think she's very close to getting a ranked opponent, but unlike women's bantamweight, you actually have to put a bit of a win streak together to get a ranked opponent. So I've got her an opponent that will give her a ranked opponent. I'm not too sure if Marina Moroz is ranked. Maybe she actually is, but that's who I've matched her up against. Marina Moroz is not ranked, but she's never been finished before. If you guys don't know, Karine Silva, 16 wins, 16 finishes, absolutely insane. And I think if she manages to finish Marina Moroz, then it's kind of when we've got to go, yeah, we need to give Karine Silva a ranked opponent, you know, but I feel like maybe she just beat a girl that was on her debut. If she beat Priscilla Cachoeira by finish, that probably would have earned her a ranked opponent, but she's only 2-0 in the UFC. She did get a win on Dana White's Contender Series, which is quite good, but, you know, we're still kind of waiting on her to maybe like beat like that next level of competition, and then we can go, yep, let's give her a ranked opponent. Just not yet. I think a good test for her would be Marina Moroz, and that would kind of let us know if she's ready for the rankings. Elysiu Zaleski got it done over Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov tried to make this fight as boring as possible, but Zaleski was just kind of able to land more damage, get more damage off, and win a very, very close fight. But I don't think he called anyone out, but he's an older guy. I've actually got him matched up with another older guy, but maybe not an older guy that you're thinking of. And maybe it doesn't make that much sense because Zaleski doesn't have a big name, and Daniel Rodriguez kind of does have a pretty big name at this point. A lot of people are kind of coming over to D-Rod. People are kind of liking Daniel Rodriguez right now. He's got a little bit of fanfare about him, but the problem with Daniel Rodriguez is he is on a 2-fight losing streak right now. I think what we've got to do, we've got to turn that around, man, and what better fight to turn it around against a striker in Elysiu Zaleski and an older guy as well, like Daniel Rodriguez is 36. I think Elysiu Zaleski's getting up there in age as well. He's 36 himself. He took a lot of time off before that fight. He probably wants to come back sometime soon. And I think Daniel Rodriguez versus Elysiu Zaleski as a fight would be fun. Name value wise, I mean, Daniel Rodriguez would 100% be the A side there. But I think that's like main card of a fight night in front of a crowd material. I think that's maybe even like headliner of a prelims of a pay-per-view. High up on the prelims of a really good pay-per-view. I think that's a pretty good fight to put on. I mean, Daniel Rodriguez probably wants to fight soon. I don't know how soon Zaleski wants to fight, but I think he's the kind of things. Actually, D-Rod got KO'd recently, so he probably wants to take a couple of months off, but you kind of know what I mean. Daniel Santos beat Johnny Munoz Jr. I thought he was going to knock him out, but Munoz Jr. was, he just looked absolutely pathetic. He was pulling guard and just doing just nerdy BJJ stuff, man. Recently, I mean, MMA Guru's kind of like leading the charge, but recently, like a lot of people, including the public, are kind of coming off BJJ as a style, and I think Crone Gracie was like the #1 person that really just made everyone go, man, like this is just sad. And Johnny Munoz Jr. just did that, and Santos just beat him, you know. But there's a rumored card in August. Daniel Santos is from Shootbox. These guys probably want to fight as often as they can. And there's a rumored card in August that's going to be in Singapore. So I've actually matched up Daniel Santos with Alateng Hailey. Now, Alateng Hailey is, well, he's Mongolian Chinese. So he probably wants to fight on that card in Singapore because it's somewhere near China. You know, it's in Asia. Singapore is in Asia, if you didn't know geography. But anyway, the point is, Alateng Hailey probably wants to fight on that card in Singapore. And Daniel Santos always brings a very fun fight. These guys are pretty close in the rankings. Alateng Hailey is actually higher up in the rankings because it did go 4-1 in the UFC, which is actually a very good record at 135. But he hasn't fought since September of last year. He probably wants to get back in there soon. He probably wants to get back there on the Singapore card. And I think Daniel Santos would be an appropriate opponent because that would be a fun fight. Alateng Hailey's a pretty fun fighter most of the time, and Daniel Santos is a fun fighter all of the time, except for when he's fighting Johnny Munoz. But we'll move on. Dontale Mays beat Andrei Arlovsky. There's a couple of options. I don't mind Dontale Mays versus... Apparently his name's actually Dontale. Is his name Dontale or Dontale? I don't even know. Apparently Mays... what was I on about? I was going to actually match him up with Walt Harris. But there could be a fun fight. If Walt Harris wins, I think a fight with Dontale Mays and Walt Harris would be fun, but I've actually matched them up against Rodrigo Nascimento, just kind of because I think that Rodrigo Nascimento potentially could be a prospect at the UFC heavyweight division, like maybe, but it's actually already fought Dontale Mays. Oh, that's so dumb. I'm such an idiot. Anyway, Dontale Mays versus Walt Harris it is. Let's just move on. John Castaneda beat Muin Gafarov. Gafarov stepped on short notice. It was a pretty close fight, but Castaneda managed to edge it out. There was a weird point deduction, but it is what it is. Castaneda is a guy with a lot of experience. I've matched him up with another guy with a lot of experience, and Sergey Morozov. And Sergey Morozov hasn't fought in a while either. He hasn't fought since the end of last year, so he's probably somewhat keen to fight sometime soon, and maybe even then, because he's from Kazakhstan, maybe he also has interest on fighting on that Singapore card, because once again, Kazakhstan, I believe, geographically is close to Singapore, but I don't know. You know what I mean. I think that's probably a good fight anyway, just to make two guys with a lot of experience, two guys where a win against each other would probably give them that next step up in their career, or next step up closer to the top 15. I mean, John Castaneda just lost to Daniel Santos, but now he's bounced back with a good win. A good win over Morozov would put him in a position to, once again, get a fight that would make him a little bit closer to the top 15. I think it's pretty good. Muhammadjon Naimov managed to come out of nowhere and KO Jamie Malaki. I mean, Jamie Malaki was winning the fight. I thought it was a really good matchup for Jamie Malaki, and it was. And Jamie Malaki was looking really good, but he kind of just rushed in there and left his chin wide open for the taking. And Muhammad Naimov, he saw that coming. I mean, we're talking about a former Taekwondo world champion. I mean, Taekwondo, not necessarily the best base for MMA, because you're throwing a lot of kicks, and kicks can get caught. You can get taken down when you're throwing kicks, all sorts of things. But Muhammad Naimov does a very good job of kind of selecting his kicks, of selecting his strikes, and he managed to catch Jamie Malaki with a right hook, knocked him out. And, you know, he said he's going to go back down to 145 pounds, which is contrary to what somebody said in my comments section. Someone said in my comment section, you didn't do your research. Muhammad Naimov's been getting ready for lightweight, all this and that. Just absolute bullshit. Muhammad Naimov, he's a featherweight. He's been a featherweight for most of his career, and he's going to be a featherweight in the UFC. So he's going to fight Lucas Alexander next, in my opinion. I mean, this is probably a good fight to make, because Lucas Alexander, similar situation to Naimov, he come in on short notice, but he lost to Joe Anderson Brito, but then he bounced back against Steven Peterson. And the reason why I say they're in a similar position is because they're both, like, we don't know how good they both are, because Lucas Alexander fought a Steven Peterson that looked like he'd just come off the couch after drinking a case of beers. And we don't know how good Muhammad Naimov is really at the UFC. I mean, he got a great win over Jamie Malaki, but now let's test him against the guy which we don't know how good he is. So the winner of this fight, we know that they're a good prospect, then we know that they're a good guy to follow their career. I think Muhammad Naimov probably would win that fight by KO as well. Probably a head kick KO, actually, because he throws a lot of head kicks. But yeah, I think that's a good fight. Speaking of Taekwondo, Elise Reed called out Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Yeah, whatever, we can do that. Damon Blackshear beat Luan Lacerda. Luan Lacerda now 0-2 in the UFC, which is a shame, because I thought he beat Cody Stamen. But good for Damon Blackshear. He called out Adrian Yanez, and he called out somebody else ranked. I think he called out like Adrian Yanez and like TJ Dillashaw or something. I haven't matched him up with either of those two fighters. I've given him Stephen Koslow. At the end of the day, Damien Blackshear is 1-2 in the UFC. 1-1, sorry. The Yusuf Zalal fight was a draw. But he's 1-1 in the UFC, and I think a fight against Stephen Koslow would be very interesting. Similar style matchup to the Luan Lacerda fight, because Damian Jackson and Luan Lacerda are both grapplers. Luan Lacerda is a grappler, and also Stephen Koslow is a grappler. And I think that it would really test the grappling of Blackshear, because if you guys saw it, Stephen Koslow really tested the grappling of Cameron Simon. Like, really tested it, man. Like, really put Cameron Simon in some weird spots. Cameron Simon had to do a lot of reversals, all sorts of things. It's actually quite a fun fight. You know, like, even if you don't like grappling, I actually probably would recommend that you watch this fight, Cameron Simon versus Stephen Koslow, because it is actually a very technical grappling fight. Now, Stephen Koslow hasn't proven himself against anyone yet, but I do believe Koslow versus Blackshear would actually still be quite a fun fight anyway. And then Felipe Lins managed to get a win over Maxime Grishin. It wasn't a very fun fight. I mean, Felipe Lins is a young... he's not a young guy, is what I was going to say. He's not a young guy. He's an older guy. He's 37. He probably wants to fight more often than the matchup that I'm putting him in. But I am actually putting him in a matchup for September, which is 4 months away, so it's probably not too bad. And I've got Felipe Lins versus Tyson Pedro. I think you could probably put this on the prelims of UFC 293. Knowing the UFC, they'll put it on the main card because it's in Australia and they know that they're going to sell out the arena no matter what they do. But Tyson Pedro versus Felipe Lins could be a fun fight, but it also could be a terrible fight. So, Hey, it could be either either, but I think there's still a pretty fun matchup to be made. If you made it this far in the video, do let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that one of my matchups was really dumb? If you haven't already as well and you made it this far, please do like the video. Please do subscribe if you haven't already and you want to see more videos from me. I try and upload every single day. I've been quite consistent with it actually recently over the last couple of weeks. I've been consistently uploading every single day. But as always though, I will see you guys in the next video. And I don't know what it will be. It'll probably be my UFC predictions. But I've got a couple of good videos coming out. Just to kind of, if you made it this far, you guys get a little scoop on the extra videos. So Tajikistan is pulling like big numbers for the UFC right now. Like people, like the commentators, the broadcaster claiming that like stadiums are showing up to watch these Tajikistan fighters fight in the UFC. The UFC, in my opinion, needs to capitalize on this ASAP before any other promotion does, and sign more fighters from Tajikistan. So I'm going to make a video about that, make a video about the best fighters from Tajikistan, all sorts of things. And as always, yeah, I'll see you in the next one.